our channel. I'm your host, Charlene Birk. Have you ever felt an itch to change jobs or place of work? You might have been at your company for many years, and there's this inner longing to be challenged or to feel happier and fulfilled. It's a tough spot when security and responsibility are important. My guest today, Rina Escorcia, in this episode of Self-Motivation, has this very story. She tried to quell her needs by supplementing other work, more certifications, until she participated in a leadership program and my leadership coaching program. You will hear about her career transition that was not easy, but in the end, she got her dream job of becoming a forensic accountant. Tune in if you want to hear more about her story, give us a follow, and turn your notification on for new episodes. I'm Charlene Birk, your leadership coach. Thanks for watching. Welcome. Thank you for being a guest today.
Absolutely.
And we've been through a journey for 6 months or so,
Yeah.
a little bit over. What's really, when you began your journey with, you took an assessment last July. And so knowing yourself is a key component to self-motivation, right?
Correct.
I know you're a very motivated person.
Yes.
So your pre-assessment was actually in July, as I mentioned. Particularly, the topic of the show is self-motivation. Was 68? Did you know that? Do you remember your score at 68?
Yeah, it was pretty low in the beginning of the journey.
It was low. And by January of this year, it was a staggering growth of 88.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? From 68 to 88?
Well, the initial 68 kind of hit me with a ton of bricks right off the bat. I knew I had some weaknesses, emotional intelligence, self-awareness area, but I didn't think I was going to be so low. But just being on this journey to just see the score go from that level to all the way to the high 80s, it was just like, oh my God. I just felt like it was a short period of time, but I was able to develop and learn and focus on myself in just that short time frame. So I was super happy about that. There's still progress to be done, but just to see that short level time, that score improvement and learning about myself has been amazing. So very excited to see that score.
You moved the needle quite over here, right?
Yes.
Not that 68. Honestly, to be honest with you, 68 is a good score. I know you're a high achiever.
I know. I'm a numbers person, so that score was not in my vocabulary.
So you went to 88. So just to let everybody know, 68 is actually a really good score. There's some improvement. You pushed the needle all the way to 88. And I was really impressed, the self-motivation, not just by the score, but you showed in behavior. You showed in behavior how motivated. I mean, they don't really know what you went through. You've been through a lot. So you can or cannot share. You don't have to share if you don't want to. But based on your high self-awareness score, can you share some specific strategies used to stay motivated, especially facing some of the challenges that you faced?
Yeah, so I don't mind opening up a little bit of the kind of the journey that I went through. So when I reached out to kind of get a little bit of a gauge of where I am and some improvements that I wanted, I was in an area where I kind of felt, kind of stuck. I wanted to make a difference in, the organization. I wanted to be a voice, but I saw that I had reactions or I came off a little bit strong. And I said, well, maybe I need to focus on working on myself. So that was my first kind of, let's see what's out there. What can I do to focus on Rina? How can Rina improve? My interactions, my communication skills, my positivity, my confidence, my emotional intelligence. So those were the topics that I was in my mind focused on, because biggest thing that I want to do is I want to be the best Rina I can be. I'm very self-motivated in the areas of my work, my studies, learning. And I wanted to be able to not just contribute to the work, but I wanted to also contribute to myself. So I was very motivated to get better as a person, be better heard, be better communicator, just be more positive so I could be the best that I could be. And being in an area where I was the only female manager in a sense that it was a male-dominated industry, I wanted to make sure I was heard, but heard properly. So I was had that focus in my mind. And so when I contact you, along with doing a leadership program, I was very focused on specific points. I wanted to make sure we got them accomplished. I had a target. And in that, I very planner oriented. And we could go into different personality types. I learned about my personality, but I wanted to get accomplishment. So I'm very driven, self-motivated, especially from where I came from, my parents. I'm a New Yorker, tough, rough, tough, just keep powering through. So I have that innate feeling inside of me, and I just love to grow. So that continual learning development, I hunger that. That's something important to me. So throughout the journey is being able to kind of focus on myself and learn more about myself. It got me excited and motivated to kind of like keep pushing myself. What else can I do to get better? Some of the strategies from like an awareness standpoint, it's like, okay, when I feel something come on, it's like, okay, why am I feeling this? Taking a minute to kind of self-recognize the state that I'm in, taking a moment instead of being reactive. I found myself doing my homeworks and like kind of assignments just to keep improving. So I was on this, I guess, motivation high in self-improvement. What can I do to make it better? What did I do here? What should I have done here? What can I work on? So the biggest thing out of this was I wanted to go on a path as, I want to be heard. I want to be confident. I want this. And it turned into more like, I want to work on myself. I want to be the best Rina that I can be, regardless of the situation challenges I'm in. So that's what kind of got me into the journey to begin with, and through this, as you kind of know, I was still teaching, I'm doing all this stuff. I'm doing 100 miles an hour and cramming whatever I can cram in. Yep. I also got an assessment of like, what is very important to Rina? Who is Rina? What is important? And being able to understand my values, what's important. Some of that things that I thought was motivated, and I still am, it just kind of shifted a little bit. It kind of realigned, putting your values and prioritizing things makes your motivation just shift a little bit and kind of prioritize things the proper way. So, and through it, I've been able to gain a better sense of who I am, a better feeling of being positive, calmer, and be able to take on whatever comes my way with, pretty much neutrality and just, I guess, a better way to judge things right off the bat before that pre-Rina reaction that I used to have.
Yeah. You demonstrated time and time again how motivated and committed you are to your growth to the point that you were doing a lot of things. But at the same time, you craved that growth.
Yes.
So you made some transition. Tell us about how you overcame some of the transitions, because sometimes we get really comfortable of where we are. But at the same time, I knew you were looking for some challenges. You went from small challenges to being really busy to really jumping.
Yes.
Jumping to like, oh man, how far did I jump?
Oh, for sure. And, being an accountant and we're very, very calculated, we don't normally, I'm speaking for myself, don't take these big risks. I've come to a point in my career, for example, that I was comfortable. I was able to do a job that I'm very good at, being an accounting manager, knew what I was doing, taking on teaching because I felt like I still needed to be challenged. That challenge and satisfaction was not there. It's like, I want more. I want something else. I am curious to what I can do. I feel like I could do more. I want to be something of value. I want to make a difference. I want to be part of something big and making a decision. That's kind of scary when you're looking at working in an environment in a place for over 17 years of comfort. You know what? Let's take that leap. Let's take that gamble. So through that moment the challenges that I faced and just switching altogether in a new job, new everything, and finding risks, whether I'm taking a gamble if the opportunity is right, could not be a good fit, and still recognize and start processing, okay, well, why did I want to leave? Sometimes you second guess yourself and you're like, oh my God, what did I do? I left this, I got this, I was able to do this. And then you're like, what did I do? And you realize like, wait a minute, you had reasons to leave. The biggest thing was a place that you wanted to be. Was it a safe environment? Was it making you happy? And I think the biggest one that I came to, so many things that I loved, and the happiness thing was a big factor of it. It's like, I was not happy. And it's because of all this. So did I really regret that or not? Or just do I feel like I was just like in a moment, like question that made me kind of shake for a moment and make that seed of doubt kind of creep in, and it took, you get those moments of like going through a change, the grieving process, like, oh my God, what did I do? And you start processing it, you have your circumstance, you left, you have this questionable area you're in. Well, all these thoughts and feelings start creeping in. It's like, well, you could sometimes change your circumstances, sometimes not, but what you can't control is your thought, feelings, and behaviors behind it. And a moment, you got to process what you're feeling, but this one you have to let some of this other stuff kind of settles. Like kind of have a conversation with yourself, kind of have that one-on-one feedback with yourself. And then when you realize it's like you're kind of blowing things way out here when in reality it's here. And then you start questioning, what do I want? Okay, what is important to me? And that's the biggest thing is your value set. What do you want? You know? So I found myself an opportunity to kind of, one, see what's out there and start putting things into priorities. Like I want this type of field. I want to be able to do this. My dream is to do this other thing. You know, I've done an undergraduate, master's, certification. Forensic accounting is here. I love financial accounting. So I had built in my mind, it's like, what is the position and goals that I want in an organization? Still holding true to my values with the family, you know, the friendship and relationships, having time for myself and have everything in balance. I want all that. I don't want to sacrifice one for the other. And it's just going through, and I think, you know, when I was going through the opportunity to kind of see what's out there, I was hitting fingers to keyboard, a mad lady, but still trying to focus on the area and jobs that I wanted to see, which good thing for me was that there was plenty out there. It turned into what do I want as the calls kept coming in and interviewing. What do I want to see? It was a whirlwind in the sense that I made the decision to leave, finding opportunities like though it's not a fit, seeing that there is a lot of opportunities that I can explore and get, and to go, Rina and all, and get ready to a great possibility. And, you know, I was fortunate enough to have some good opportunities land my way. And now I'm getting to the opportunity to pretty much have something that I've always wanted to do in the area of forensic accounting. So a lot of wave of emotions, a lot of talking to myself, but it was also a lot of reflection and realization of priorities and what I truly want going forward.
Yeah. So I just want to add, you got lucky. You said the opportunity came your way, but you hit the ground. I'm not sure if you would have achieved your dream role as a forensic accounting if you hadn't hit the keyboards. As we know, you're a numbers girl.
Yeah.
You worked with the keyboard many times over.
For sure.
That's how your opportunity came about.
Yes.
I would say, because of your dedication and your hard work. Would you agree?
I agree with that. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And also what's really important about what you said, Rina, is that you really reflected, right, on how you are showing up for yourself and how you want to be out there and how can I connect that with my own family values and where I'm going to be splitting, you know, you value the output of your work, right?
Yeah.
You value being a leader. You value creating impact in others, leading others. You did such a great job in connecting that. Like, how does that connect with me? And you were so quick to say, this is not it, right? Well, you obviously stayed at your first job for 17 years. You mentioned that.
Correct.
And you moved to one and then quickly right away, like, nope. Been here before where I don't want this, no matter how hard this decision is.
Not a fit.
It's not a fit. And still, it was kind of a difficult, or I don't know how much, but difficult to make that decisions, like, because you jumped from 17 years to this and recognize it's not a fit. And then you kind of like, hey, I'm going to take time for myself.
For sure, for sure. It was one of those moments that, again, one, you're used to working for such a long period of time without skipping a beat, that you don't want to be in a bad spot. That's not the answer. Just for the sake of saying, okay, I'm here, just going to just be here. When I knew that in the core of my values, I did not want to compromise what was important to me. And you know what? It was a moment to take a step back. But if that moment to take a step back was that moment of like, oh my God, that space creeped in. What did I just do? Right? You start talking to yourself, but it did give me an opportunity to, one, still focus on making sure I'm having a plan to move forward, but have that moment of, okay, what that plan should look like when I do propose to move forward. And then also take advantage that I'm with my family. Something that the timing wise, I think it worked out because it was like the holiday seasons that, you know what, be present. I had a moment to be more present because I'm a calculating person. I want to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this. But I had a moment to focus on myself and stay present with my family, my kids especially, and be present with myself and my thoughts. Because now I had a time to kind of answer myself, not in the second person, but being able to like make the hard questions be asked of myself and then force myself to answer them truthfully. What is it that you want? What is it that I want? What's it going to make it happy? What's the priority? And for me, making a plan A, B, C, if it doesn't fall into these categories, it's a no for me. It's an absolute no. But if it does, okay, I don't want to just jump to the first opportunity that may fit it. I want to be able to compare to something. And so I made it a kind of rule of myself. It's like, okay, it may fit a lot of these areas. It balances, okay. Does it feel right? Now it has to feel right, which the organization that I was in, and the last thing for me was, I'm not a dollar sign chaser, even though I'm an accountant. I had a minimum, but it has to feel right as well. So it had to be a great opportunity. It had to meet the number, where it's flexible for my family. It had to be a great organization, great mission, great individuals. It had to feel like I was going to be a part of something big and contribute. For me to feel the same, contribute to me as well. And it was going to be a challenge. And when it came down to it, the organization that I went, it's a phenomenal organization. It's a not-for-profit, and I work with an amazing group of people. And honestly, to this day, I'm grateful that I picked this one versus the other ones that I had, that it was a great fit. And then in the midst of this, working for a great organization, having a call back on an opportunity, I applied back, which out of sight, out of mind, which happened to be at the top of the priority list. It's pretty much my dream job.
Yeah.
So I find myself now being in a position where I had two great opportunities in front of me. The current job that I was with, that I joined, it's a great organization, great mission, great everything. And then forensic accounting area, working with the government, doing fraud accounting. So I was fortunate, I think, to go from an area where last year felt like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Where am I going to be? What is my priorities? To now here we are with two great opportunities that met a lot of the priorities. And then my dream job here and making that decision, which was easy but tough at the same time.
Yeah. So if we were to reflect on your journey, right, from July until now, what did you learn most about you?
Well, I think the biggest thing, I came in with that mindset, so I'm going to be a better communicator, I'm going to be more confident, I'm going to be more, emotional intelligence, without really knowing what emotional intelligence, besides just the catchword, really meant. I'm going to be a great leader. I'm going to affect change. To what I gained was more of a journey of myself, learning about myself, learning some of the flaws that I have and, the strengths I carry, and kind of working on more reflection. I think that's the biggest thing. And in that, challenging limiting beliefs, breaking down some of the walls that I had, that rumination that I had with negative thoughts, and have more of a calmness and positivity. So if I were to sum up that piece, having a ride with myself, understanding myself, getting to know who Rina is at the core, and kind of be able to see myself from a different vantage point. And so oh, wait, you answered this way, you did this. Why did I act like this? What I feel that moment, what triggered me, what happened there that I felt something, and being able to, at that point, is work on myself to improve certain things. Some of the reactiveness that I had, I was able to kind of step back, take a breath. We're talking about some strategies. When there's something in a charged conversation that kind of gets everybody riled up in the room, I was not one to be fearful, actually, to speak up for the team, check the group, but I didn't give myself enough time to process it or give myself a moment to get the words and the message across in a proper way. So learning to be able to, before I speak, to take a breath, do the counting. I did a counting 1 through 10 or 10 backwards. And okay, I had a moment okay, what is it that's going to help me say something that's going to benefit? This needs to be, what do I want out of this conversation? What do I need to say in order to get this out of the conversation? I can't go in and say, why this? Why did we do this? Because that's already coming into a place of blame storming versus we're brainstorming and trying to come through a common solution. So the biggest thing I learned is just how to navigate some of the feelings that I had, recognizing that I was having the feelings I was having, which I didn't realize I was. And I think I shared with you one time, I've become so observant of myself that we're in a meeting and they were saying something that I just was completely out of left field. And I looked at myself in the camera and I was making a face. And it was just oh my God. It's is that how I look like when I'm hearing something that doesn't seem right or just completely out there? And it was just I never noticed that before. It felt like that. I had a chance to see myself in a way that I never saw myself before, and then work on it and work on myself to improve that. Yeah. So just having a journey on myself was the biggest thing that I feel like I've gone in the last 6 months, working with you and going through a leadership program, for sure.
I love your pivot with blamestorming to brainstorming.
You don't realize we do that, but a lot of us do that, and you're part of the problem, not part of the solution at that time.
Good awareness. It allows you, this pause allowed you to shift and pivot right? Do I want to keep going this way or do I want to be different? And so it seems like the journey, what you've learned is to give yourself time to be able to process, really connect with your, you mentioned earlier, intrinsic value. How do I want to
show up? Yeah.
I still can't get over the blame storming to brainstorming.
I think I got that from there was a book in this leadership program. I think it's called the QBQ. Those words were in there and it stuck with me because we're such in a habit. Well, I was in such in a habit when something happens. Well, why did they do this? Like, why are we doing this? And just question things when I was like, how is that helping the conversation? How is this helping at all? And that's where it's just like, okay, well, maybe instead of focusing, okay, well, this is the problem. Well, are you adding it to it? How are you helping this? And versus coming into like, okay, what can we do to help? How can I help this situation? What can I do? Focus on that end versus the other end.
So what I notice about you, Rina, is that when you ask those questions, you actually ponder and take the time to respond to them. A lot of us, I've noticed, we ask these questions, but we don't really take the time to reflect. But you do. And so it allows that when you ponder and reflect with that question, then there are options. Then you have some options like, okay, how do I want to deal with this? Because a lot of times, people will say, oh, I asked myself this. I'm like, so what's the answer? Well, I haven't thought about it, but you do. It's a new role. Everything's new. What's really important about how you show up there?
Yeah, well, the biggest thing for me, it is a new world. So I'm going to be absorbing a lot of information, is learn from the people that are there. And for me, being able to have, leadership that I kind of was exposed to with you and through the program, that mentorship is those relationships, making those relationships count, learning the process, putting the grit and grind in it too, but being open-minded about a lot of things. And I think it's probably a little easier in this area because this is completely new, but pretty much going in there, absorbing what I can, learning from those that are in the business, creating those relationships and mentorships that are there, and pretty much come with a positive mindset. And right off the bat, being very reflective and not jump the gun and explore all possibilities. Not every decision that are out there could be right, but we got to explore it. So I think that's the mentality I'd probably be bringing in there.
So from rumination, which you mentioned earlier, to optimism, and you are proof that you actually can work on that, right? You have. I hear it and the excitement when you speak about it. So for those people, what advice would you give them from your journey? 17 years, comfort, but that nagging inner voice, and then you jumped and then it wasn't so good. And then you jumped out again and came back and then happy. But then there's this dream thing again, which was kind of easy, but not. Like, what would your advice be?
I'd say, one, just breathe. First, right off the bat, take a moment, don't overthink things is one thing I could advise. Is breathe, take a moment to process it, and pretty much write down what you really want. Understand yourselves. What is motivating you? What is important? What are your values? What is it you want to accomplish? And start making the list so you have some options that are there. If you're not happy, if you're not feeling challenged, if you're feeling stuck, that's an opportunity to kind of reassess where you are and to take that time to do that. One thing I would have wished I would have done that right at the bat, working 17 years when I had that moment of feeling not challenged or feeling stuck, that recognizing that I was not truly happy. I wish I would have done that right off the bat. So if you're feeling that, you're having those feelings, start analyzing, questioning yourself and asking those hard questions and putting pen to paper. So you could really figure out what is it that you want so you can work and get prepared to work in that direction. But don't compromise your values. That's what I'll say off the bat.
Knowing your values, connecting with yourself, really answering those tough questions. Because you made the opportunities happen. You had to take that leap. They didn't come to you. And it sounds like you wish that you would have taken the leap earlier or sooner. But who knows what would happen. I think in the perfect world, it's now.
Absolutely.
Your dream job. And it's a great title, by the way. I'm really proud of you. Really amazing. And this world, like, also, right, exciting and new. Anyways, congratulations. I was going to ask something. Congratulations, Rina. I'm really happy for you to be sharing your stories with us and your journey. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Charlene. It's a pleasure being with you. And a big thank you to you and helping me along the journey.
happy to be in your journey. It's been an honor. You're great to work with. It was easy for me. So you're so motivated. So you made my job fun.
I appreciate that, Charlene. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rina.